Now, in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive, is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Hey, Maria, good morning. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Let me start with Russia, because I know there's a lot of support in the Senate for this. 80 senators or plus have supported potential sanctions on Russia and its energy. Would you take that up? Would you take that to the floor?
I would. I think there's a big appetite for that in the House as well. I think tough sanctions are called for. I mean, Vladimir Putin has shown an unwillingness to work with President Trump to bring an end to this unjust war on Ukraine. And we got to talk tough and we got to act tough. That's what he responds to. He's a bully, and if you don't treat him as such, then he'll continue to run his rampage through Ukraine. And we've got to bring an end to that. We need peace in this conflict. It's long overdue.
And of course, part of the money being allocated toward defense, an increase there, is in the big, beautiful bill. Congratulations to you for getting that over the finish line in the time that you promised, July 4th. The president signed it into law. Tell me how that money will be allocated with regard to defense. What do you want to see happen?
Well, look, the big, beautiful bill was a landmark achievement. America First is no longer just an agenda. It's now the law of the land. And to your point, the big investment there was in border security and national defense. The bill did a lot of things, but this is really important. So this money will go to help us ensure the policy of peace through strength. We have to invest appropriately and smartly in our military industrial base right now. It's a dangerous world where our adversaries are China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. They've united together in so many ways. And we're showing everybody around the world, like that little clip you just showed from Prime Minister Netanyahu, that America's back. And that strength is what is going to maintain the peace. So these investments are important. It's in naval vessels and ships, in our new kind of warfare. And, by the way, there's an investment here in the Golden Dome, which will help us have real security in our homeland. So lots of things here, very strategic. We're spending the money efficiently and effectively. That's what the American people demand and deserve.
And, of course, you and your colleagues were also able to stop what would have been the biggest tax increase than anyone has seen with the extension of the tax cuts. I want to get your take on what's next. Where does the legislative agenda go now? And are you expecting to do a second reconciliation package later on in the year?
Yeah, we're implementing a playbook that we designed well over a year ago. About 15 months ago, we began this process, understanding and believing that we would win unified government, that we'd have the White House, the Senate, and the House in the Republican hands, and that we would not want to waste this historic opportunity with President Trump coming back to the White House and us having the responsibility of fixing every metric of public policy that Biden and Harris and the Democrats destroyed over the previous 4 years. So the big, beautiful bill was the first big step in that, but we have multiple steps ahead of us. We have long planned for at least 2, possibly 3 reconciliation bills, one in the fall and one next spring, that would continue to allow us to do this on a partisan basis where we only need Republican votes and we don't have to drag Democrats along. They are no appetite to fix any of the mess. We have to do it ourselves. So, yes, that's next. In addition to that, we will continue to get the country back on a path to fiscal responsibility by rescissions packages that will come from the White House and will enact and claw back spending and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse in the multiple reconciliation packages and in appropriating at lower levels of funding. All these things will be done while we're codifying more of President Trump's executive orders. He's been very busy. We will be as well. We have a lot more work ahead of us.
Well, it's a great point that you make, because some people were critical of the fact that we haven't seen a lot of codifying in the Congress of President Trump's executive orders. Where specifically would you want to see that?
Yeah. Well, we did over almost 30 of them were included in the big, beautiful bill. So that was a lawmaking exercise. The president's now signed them into law and they're codified. So it's not a temporary thing. They'll be permanent in the law. And we've done a number, about 15 or 20 additional executive orders that we've already codified in the House. We'll continue that process. We wanted to get as many of them as we could into the reconciliation package because we knew that we were certain that that would actually be signed into law and it wouldn't just be a feel-good exercise. So more of that will continue going forward. The president's been one of the most prolific, I think arguably the most successful president in the first 6 months of this term than any previous president. Look how many things have been accomplished. A lot of it's been done through executive order, so Congress has its role to play now as well.
Well, that's a big message, an important message for you going into the re-election races next year. In terms of debt and the spending cuts that so many people want to see, that was really the pushback or the debate among you and your colleagues. Do you feel you have the support in terms of spending cuts? Should you actually get to do that second reconciliation package you're referring to?
I do. Look, the Republican Party is the party of fiscal responsibility, and we're going to continue to demonstrate that. In the big, beautiful bill, people call it a spending bill. It wasn't. The only increases in spending were for those two priorities, border and national defense. Everything else was carving back and saving money from the budget, which is why you call it a reconciliation bill. So we would have actually achieved, and we will, in excess of $1.6 trillion in savings. That is an historic number. No Congress, no legislative body in the history of the planet Earth has ever saved so much in a bill. Now, it's just the first step, though, Maria, as we point out. We have a $37 trillion federal debt. You and I talk about this all the time. We all do. And we have to have a combination of reduced spending and greater economic growth. We put jet fuel into the economy with the One Big Beautiful Bill. It will be that. And extraordinary growth. We're projecting 3% going forward and $4 trillion in new revenue just out of the legislation. But more is ahead. And the tariff policy and the other policies of the Trump administration have been wildly successful. In fact, we had a budget surplus, as you know, in the month of June, the first time since 2017 when President Trump was last in the White House. So more of that is ahead. Every American will feel it. And the Big Beautiful Bill was geared and written for lower and middle class earners in the country. They're going to be feeling really good as we go into that midterm election in 26.
I'm really glad you mentioned the surplus. I was going to raise that because there was so much hysteria over President Trump's tariffs, and yet look what it is getting you. $100 billion in tariff revenue on an annualized basis, actually creating a surplus for the month of June. The last time we saw a surplus was the president's first term in 2017. But, sir, I want to switch gears and ask you a bit about the FBI and the DOJ, because we still don't have enough information on the shooter. It is 1 year ago today that the president was shot out and, of course, got grazed and hit in the ear. And people are wondering why we don't have more information about this. I spoke with the FBI Director Kash Patel about it recently, and here's what he told me. Watch.
Two reasons, two open, ongoing prosecutions. So 2 of the investigations are obviously closed because the individuals are dead. But there's 2 live prosecutions. And so we can't get ahead of the federal court case. A lot of that information will come out in the federal court cases, but we have personally invested our time in making sure that we have looked at any possible international connections to terrorism and adversaries alike. And we've both been down to Quantico.
Speaker, do you have any other information about this shooter?
I don't. Look, you know, we had a bipartisan task force that worked in the House very, very quickly and looked very closely at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. The terrible mistakes that were made there, the errors. They came up with 30 recommendations to address those mistakes and ensure they don't happen again. We have new leadership, of course, at the Secret Service. We're counting on them to do that job, and I think they will. We have some very patriotic, faithful people who work in that agency, but they have a big task. So does DOJ and so does the FBI. That work has to continue at a steady pace, and the American people deserve answers. There's more to come.
Mr. Speaker, real quick before you go, I know you're waiting on the supplemental package for the emergency money for the devastation and the tragedy in Texas. What's the timing on that? How much do you expect?
Well, I know that we've got every available federal resource there working, and they're still in the recovery mode at the moment. It'll take a while to tabulate what the losses are. It was devastating, as we know, the loss of human life, just unspeakable, the tragedy there. But the way the process works is FEMA has about $13 billion in a reserve fund right now. They have enough to do the work right now. We'll see when the White House comes forward, gets the final assessments from the state, what supplemental funding requests are made, and we'll address them appropriately.
Mr. Speaker, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you, sir.
You too. Thanks so much.
Speaker.